Chapter 2151. The captain just wanted to survive at this moment, so he asked Charlie tremblingly, "Brother, if I listen to you, can you spare my life?" Charlie nodded and promised, "As long as you cooperate obediently, I can spare you not to die. Even then, I can arrange a new identity for you and let you start a new life." As soon as the other party heard this, he immediately said with gratitude, "Brother, with your words, I will listen to you." Charlie said with satisfaction, "Okay, then you just say everything as I told you." Having said that, Charlie thought for a while, and said, "Since the old dog Chengfeng has set up an emergency plan, then you simply tell him that Ruoli was killed by his emergency plan." After that, he immediately whispered a few words in the ear of the other party. After listening, the captain nodded, and immediately picked up his satellite phone, drew out the long antenna, and called Chengfeng, the Su family patriarch. At this moment, Chengfeng is at Eastcliff home, waiting for his feedback. As soon as the phone was connected, Chengfeng immediately asked, "How is the situation now?" Just now, after Ruoli was subdued by Charlie, the captain called to report the situation, so Grandpa Su is now very worried that things will change unexpectedly. According to Charlie's explanation, the captain said, "Master, Miss Ruoli was pierced in the heart by Mr. Kylo's crossbow bolt, and she is now dead." Chengfeng asked, "Are you sure she is dead?" The captain hurriedly said, "Yes. We have all seen with our own eyes, Miss Ruoli was hit by a crossbow, she died in a few seconds." Chengfeng hurriedly asked again, "What about her corpse? Is it still in that man's hands?" The captain replied, "The body has been thrown into the sea by that man. We were worried that he would come to chase us, so we evacuated first." "Evacuate?" Chengfeng roared angrily. "You are so bold. Why did you evacuate before you got the body? Who asked you to evacuate? The Japanese are still waiting, tell me how to explain it to the Japanese." The captain said embarrassingly, "Master, that man is too strong. We are not his opponent at all. If we don't leave as soon as possible, he will definitely kill us all." Chengfeng gritted his teeth and cursed, "I don't care about those, you can find it for me now. Even if you dive to the bottom of the sea, you must find Ruoli's body. If the Japanese can't get the body, I will only be asking you." The captain hurriedly said, "Master, if Miss Ruoli is dead anyway, why do the Japanese want her body?" Chengfeng roared angrily, "I have made a deal with the people of the TMPD a long time ago. What I did tonight was not to help Ruoli escape, but to behave for some people. No matter Ruoli is dead or alive, the Japanese must capture her back and give their citizens an explanation." With that said, Chengfeng said again, "You must find Ruoli's body, and then go to the predetermined location to hand it to the Japanese. If you break my good deeds, I'll cooking kill you." When Ruoli heard this, her whole body was already struck by lightning. Not only was her face extremely pale, but the tears were also completely connected. She never dreamed that her own grandfather would want her life. If it wasn't for the man in front of her, she would have been killed by the poisoned crossbow bolt. At this time, the captain hurriedly said, "Master, I will set out now, and I must find the body and send it to the Japanese self-defense forces." Chengfeng said, "If you can't figure this out, you don't have to come back." "Okay, Lord, I understand." The captain agreed, then hung up, looked at Charlie, pleadingly said, "Sir, if Chengfeng knows that I lied to him, he will definitely break my body." Charlie said indifferently, "Don't worry, since you have done things according to my instructions, then I will naturally honor my promise." Having said that, Charlie said again, "You guys will come to Oris Hill with me tonight. After you arrive there, I will settle you in an absolutely safe place. Then you will live incognito for a while, and wait for me to take Su. After your home is settled, you can restore your free identity and live a free life with integrity." When the captain heard this, he knelt down in ecstasy immediately, kowtowed to Charlie, and said excitedly, "Sir, then we brothers, everything will depend on you in the future." Several other people also knelt down. Charlie's willingness to spare their lives made them extremely grateful. In this case, naturally everything followed Charlie's instructions and arrangements. Charlie looked at Ruoli at this time and said faintly, "How about you, little beauty?" "I'm right. Chengfeng, an old thing, is not going to save you back to China. Everything is just acting for you. Just watch. Ruoli's eyes were red and swollen, and her stubbornness was gone. Her face was as gray as death, but she asked with some doubts, but I still didn't want to understand one thing: why did he act for me? Anyway, he was not ready to save me. Whether I died at sea or was captured alive by the Japanese self-defense forces, I couldn't leave Japan alive. What is the need for him to show me such deliberate acting? Charlie shrugged his shoulders and said with a smile, since it is acting in a play, there must be no one in the audience. In addition to you, there may be other audiences who also need to see this drama, such as your maiden family. Speaking of this, Charlie said calmly, although I don't know the identity of your maiden family, since you are Zin's illegitimate daughter, then your maiden family should be a little capable. If the Su family does not save you, your maiden family will definitely feel chilly, but if the Su family goes to great lengths to save you, but ultimately does not save you alive, your maiden family will be very sad, but at least they will be grateful to the Su family for their hard work. You have also played for the Su family for a period of time. What is meant by acting on the spot and false feelings? You should be very clear, right? Ruoli understood it almost instantly. Charlie's words woke her up all at once. She thought to herself at this moment, although the Su family is the strongest family in China, they have always depended on the He family for combat effectiveness. After all, the He family is one of the 4 major martial arts families in China. Because of the relationship between the mother and father and the illegitimate daughter like me, the relationship between the He family and the Su family is very close. Almost all the masters of the He family are serving the Su family. So, when Chengfeng did this scene, he must want to show the He family a look. Let the He family know that the Su family did their best to save me. In this way, it will definitely be able to greatly win the favor of the He family, and make the He family more devoted to the Su family. Just when she wanted to understand the reason for this, Charlie smiled and said, "Little beauty, I wonder if you have heard a very interesting story." Ruoli blurted out and asked, "What story?" Seeing Ruoli's face full of curiosity, Charlie smiled slightly and said, "This story tells that there is a rich second generation who wants to pursue a big beauty, but this rich second generation is rather picky and doesn't want to do it for this beauty. Spending too much money, so he pretended to tell this beauty that he was going to buy her a Ferrari. Then this rich second generation bought the Ferrari sales and let the Ferrari sales accompany him in a scene. When he took the beautiful woman to see the car, the salesman told them that there is no car now, so he can only book first. Then this rich second generation will pretend to be giving 110,000 deposit, got the contract to book the car. The beauty thought that the Ferrari bought for her by the rich second generation was already certain, so she climbed into the bed of the rich second generation that night and was succeeded by the rich second generation. After the rich second generation succeeded, he immediately went to the Ferrari salesperson, returned the 1 million deposit, and then gave the sales 20,000 yuan as a bonus. And that beauty didn't know it. She didn't know that the contract signed by the fake man was not a formal contract signed with the 4S shop at all, but a fake contract signed with that salesman. The fake man did not give her a contract at all. He tried his best to do this scene, just to trick her into sleeping. The price of a Ferrari is often more than 4 or 5 million yuan, but this rich second generation actually only spent 20,000 yuan from start to finish, and successfully SL3PT with this beauty. 20,000 compared to 5 million. Not one part. Ruoli blurted out and asked, what do you mean by telling me this story? Charlie smiled slightly and sighed helplessly. You really look beautiful, but this brain is really stupid. Ruoli was a little angry in her centrifugation, but facing Charlie, she dared not show it. So she could only ask him like a bag of air, can you make it clear, then? Charlie nodded and said seriously, in fact, this story of the rich second generation pretending to buy a car is the same as the Su family pretending to save you. After speaking, Charlie said again, look, if the Su family really wants to buy the entire TMPD and the Japanese self-defense forces and save you alive, it is not impossible, but the price may be very high. After all, the impact of this matter is extremely significant. Everyone must weigh the weight of it, unless the money is particularly large, otherwise no one dares to take the risk. I guess, I really want to save you alive. Without $1 billion, it is impossible to get through the multi-layered relationship between the Japanese Judicial Department, the Customs Department, and the Self-Defense Force. Speaking of this, Charlie turned around and smiled. But what if they just pretend to save you, but actually don't let you leave Japan alive? Then it's definitely not going to cost them so much, so I guess they would buy a car. The story is the same, the actual cost is less than 1% of the expected cost. When Ruoli heard this, deep down in her heart, she immediately felt extremely shocked, and all three views of her whole person collapsed completely at this instant. Although she didn't want to believe that everything Charlie said was true, she was not a fool either. Chengfeng's intention to kill her has been indirectly admitted on the phone, and this matter is completely fixed. Therefore, the story Charlie told, and his speculation about the Su family, can be said to hit the nail on the head. In her opinion, this story and speculation also perfectly fit the overall context of this matter. At this moment, her whole heart was ashamed. There were too many tears just now, so at this moment, she even had no tears. Seeing that she had basically given up her mind, Charlie smiled slightly and said, "Don't stay here for a long time. We must leave Japan as soon as possible before the self-defense force discover." After speaking, he called out all the crew on his ship, pointed to the captain and crew of the Su family boat, and ordered, "You guys, take them to the bottom cabin and clean the deck a bit." Ito's crew hurriedly followed suit. At this time, Warnia also walked onto the deck and asked Charlie in surprise, "Master, were these people coming for me?" Charlie shook his head. "No, they are here for me." Warnia was even more surprised when she saw Ruoli with a crossbow arrow stuck in her leg and she was motionless. She hurriedly asked him, "Master, this woman is?" Charlie looked at Ruoli and smiled slightly. This little beauty, who was an enemy before, shouldn't be counted anymore now. After speaking, he raised his eyebrows at Ruoli again, and asked with a smile, "Little beauty, am I right?" Ruoli felt embarrassed. Although she had already seen the true face of the Su family, and although Charlie did save her life, she still couldn't give Charlie a good impression. After all, it was Charlie who reported her and her companions to the Japanese self-defense forces. Among her companions, many of them are from the He family, and many are even her brothers and cousins. However, although she had no good feelings for Charlie, her hatred for him also disappeared a lot as the whole matter became clear. Therefore, she didn't know how to answer his question for a while, and could only stubbornly turn her face to one side. Seeing her resentful look, Charlie couldn't help but chuckle a few times, and said, "Little beauty, the Su family don't know that you are still alive, let alone that you are in my hands, so you will listen to me next time. You will follow me back to Oris Hill first like everyone else." Ruoli subconsciously said, "I won't go back to Oris Hill with you." Charlie smiled and said, "You are on my boat and don't want to follow me. Are you going to get off the boat now?" Ruoli was immediately embarrassed. She thought sadly in her heart, "I have nowhere to go right now. If I don't follow this guy, I can only wait for the Japanese to catch me here. In the eyes of the Japanese, I am a heinous criminal. Once I fall into their hands, there will be no escape. Moreover, I can't go back to China by myself. Let's not talk about the vast sea, I can't go back at all. Even if I go back, I'm afraid it's hard to escape the claws of the Su family." Just now, when the captain called Chengfeng, he clearly told him that I was dead. If I went back alive and the Su family knew about it, they would immediately realize that the captain lied to them. They will also realize that their vicious scheme has been completely exposed. At that time, they will definitely do everything possible to kill me. Now, my only chance is to follow this man back to Oris Hill. He is so strong, he must have a way to bring me back quietly, and he must be able to hide me from the Su family. At this moment, Ruoli wanted to survive first, and then find out the truth of the whole thing. At this moment, although she was full of hatred for the Su family, she still had the last hint of fantasy. She felt that if this matter was planned by grandfather Chengfeng alone, and her father Xin did not participate, and was even kept in the dark, then she would be more relieved in her heart. But if grandfather Chengfeng and father Xin were involved in this matter, then she and the Su family would be completely cut off. At this point, Ruoli looked at Charlie and pleaded in a low voice, "I can go to Oris Hill with you, but can you let me call my mother? I have to let her know that I'm alive. Otherwise, she will be very worried." Charlie blurted out without hesitation, "No." Ruoli didn't expect that she begged Charlie so hard that she only hoped to report peace to her mother, but he refused her very simply. She couldn't help but asked a little annoyed, why not? Even if the entire Su family wants me to die, my mother will definitely not participate in it. Charlie said coldly, you know, a mother, her daughter is really dead, and her daughter is not dead, her response to outsiders is completely different. If your mother doesn't know that you are still alive, then she will definitely show a very natural sadness, and the Su family will never find any clues. But if you tell your mother the situation now, and your mother knows that you are not dead, it will be difficult for her to pretend that she really lost her daughter. In that case, it will be easy for the Su family to find a flaw. After speaking, Charlie sneered and said, after all, your surname Su is very good at doing things. You led people to destroy the Matsumoto family, and Chengfeng asked you to kill in Japan. Who knows if he will find her? Your mother's trouble, want to cut the grass and root. As soon as Ruoli heard this, she was immediately ashamed. She was indeed brainwashed before, thinking that the interests of the Su family were above all else and that the interests of the Su family should not be desecrated. Therefore, she has always been very ruthless in dealing with the enemies of the Su family. However, the last time the Matsumoto family was destroyed, it was not Ruoli's intention, but Zin's order. The Matsumoto family nearly killed the children of Zin, which made him extremely angry at the time, so he ordered Ruoli to lead the people to transcribe the Matsumoto family. Now, when she thinks that the Su family is also unrelenting to her, Ruoli is also very ashamed and regretful in addition to being angry. If she had known that the Su family was such a group of people, and would not give up their lives for them without saying anything. At this moment, she really realized that not only was she too one-sided in thinking about the problem, but also too one-sided and simple about the Su family. She couldn't help but blame herself in her heart. Ruoli, you are so stupid. For so many years, except for killing people, you knew nothing, even you almost dragged your mother into the water. This man is right. If I let mother know all this, she will most likely go to the Su family immediately. Even if she can hold it back, once the Su family finds her, she will find it hard not to be noticed by the other party. It will put my mother in danger. Thinking of this, she immediately looked at Charlie, nodded obediently, and said angrily, then, well. I listened to you. Charlie gave a hum, and said, I will ask you to take you to the cabin to rest first. The blood from your wound has stopped. I will help you pull out the crossbow arrows later, and then help you remove the toxins in your body. Ruoli nodded lightly, hesitated again and again, then bit her lower lip and whispered, thank you. Charlie gave a hum, and said to the captain of his own ship, you follow me to the next ship, set it in the opposite direction and let it go at full speed, so that it can divert the attention of others. The captain nodded quickly. At this time, the 6 people thrown into the sea by Charlie had all drowned. The bodies of several of them have begun to sink to the bottom of the sea. Charlie took the captain to the opposite cruise ship. After the captain set the course, Charlie asked him to return to the ship first. After that, he drove the power of the ship's engine to its maximum, and the ship rushed out immediately. Warnia saw the ship sail away on the next deck, and shouted with some worry, Master. As soon as the voice fell, she saw a figure on the ship jumped up and jumped into the water with a perfect parabola. After that, she saw Charlie poking his head out of the water lightly and swimming back to the boat without hesitation. Warnia was worried about Charlie, and quickly took a bath towel. The moment Charlie got on the boat, she immediately handed the bath towel to him, and said with concern, Master, quickly wipe the water on your body, and then go to the cabin to take a shower to avoid catching a cold. Charlie smiled slightly, it doesn't matter, just change to clean clothes later. As he said, he instructed the captain on the side, let's set sail now and enter the high seas as soon as possible. Okay Mr. Wade. The captain nodded immediately and said, you go and change your clothes first, we will set sail. Charlie returned to the cabin and changed into clean clothes. The crew helped him put the clothes soaked in seawater into the washing machine integrated with washing and drying. In this way, it could be washed and dried in a few hours. At this time, Ruoli was arranged in a big bedroom on the first floor. Because Charlie had sealed her meridians before, she could only sit on the sofa and couldn't move at this time. Charlie knocked on the door politely, then pushed the door in, looked at Ruoli and asked, how do you feel? Ruoli said awkwardly. I'm okay. After finishing talking, she asked very puzzledly, can you tell me how you did it? Charlie frowned and asked, how did you do it? Ruoli asked, how did you make it possible to remove the toxins in my body instantly? It also helps me stop bleeding. What I cannot understand is that my body's ability to move seems to have been greatly affected. Charlie said lightly, since you are a martial artist, you should have an understanding of internal power. Ruoli nodded and said seriously, I know internal strength, but this seems to be completely beyond the scope of internal strength, right? The martial arts people work hard to train their internal strength to enhance their physical fitness and strength. This strength can only run in their own body, but your internal strength seems to be able to run in the body. This is also amazing. Charlie hummed, and said with an arrogant look, my internal strength is completely different from your internal strength. The ancients said, how can the light of fireflies compete with the sun and the moon? If my inner strength is the sun and the moon, then your internal strength is nothing but fireflies. Chinese martial arts have emphasized the accumulation, operation, and use of internal forces in the body since ancient times. The so-called Qi meridians, Qi Shen Dantian, Da Zhou Tian, and Xiao Zhou Tian are all based on this theory. The overall logic of Reiki is similar to the internal force. The most obvious difference is that in addition to its own accumulation, operation, and use, Reiki also has an ability that can be released outside. No matter how strong the internal strength is, it can only rely on one's own body. A good internal master can kill a heavy cow with one punch, or even an elephant with one punch. But even so, he couldn't achieve the ability to kill a mouse in the air. The reason is that the internal force cannot be released outside. After all, the internal force is actually an entry-level low-end version of Reiki. And the spiritual energy is 1,000 miles higher than the internal force. The difference between the two is like the difference between primates and humans. Although the DNA of primates and humans has almost 99% similarity, the gap between the two is still a difference between heaven and earth. No matter how smart a chimpanzee is, it cannot become a human being. Between the two, there is an insurmountable gap. Among Chinese martial arts practitioners, there are at least tens of thousands of people who can master internal qi. However, among these tens of thousands of people, almost none of them can train their internal qi into the aura. If Charlie hadn't had the help of the 9 profound heavenly scriptures, and the earlier piece of spiritual stone, even if he took a lot of rejuvenating pill, he would not be able to form aura in his body. This is a real great opportunity, an opportunity that ordinary people cannot get in a few lifetimes. Charlie naturally couldn't tell Ruoli the actual situation, but the light of the fireflies and the brilliance of the sun and the moon had already shocked Ruoli deep in her heart. She murmured in her heart, it turns out that his internal strength has reached a higher level. No wonder his strength is so perverted, and he can easily save my life, which is better than the martial art I know. This is so powerful. Charlie said calmly at this time, although the toxins in your body have been removed, your wound is still open. I will help you pull out the crossbow arrow, and then help you clean up the wound. Ruoli looked at the wound on her leg. The crossbow arrow almost penetrated the entire thigh from the base of the thigh. She couldn't help but secretly said in shame, I am still wearing black tights, but if I want him to help me deal with the wound, he must take off or tear my P.A.N.T.S. off. But this part is indeed a bit too private. Seeing that Ruoli was more or less embarrassed, Charlie's first thought was, otherwise, just let her handle it. She is a professionally trained killer who must be very good at dealing with such small wounds. However, another thought popped into his mind. This woman's character is as strong as an untamed wild horse, and her methods are vicious and cruel. For such a woman, I want her to be honest from tonight. To be submissive, you must first completely wipe out her self-esteem. Thinking of this, Charlie said with a cold expression, come on, I will help you sit on a single recliner, you lie on it, and I will help you deal with the wound. Ruoli vaguely said, I'll do it myself, please give me a pair of pliers, and some debridement potion and gauze for dressing. It'll all be fine. Charlie said blankly, it's not impossible for you to deal with it yourself, but the legs are rich in blood vessels. When the crossbow arrow is taken out, the wound will bleed heavily. If the wound has injured the artery, Once you rush the crossbow arrow, if it comes out and the wound opens, your life will be in danger, and if you hurt your nerves, you may be disabled in the future. Ruoli also knew very well that it would be no problem to deal with ordinary wounds by herself, but if it really hurts the arteries, it would be really difficult to get started. Moreover, if you hurt your nerves, it will indeed leave certain sequelae. Once there are sequelae, your strength will definitely be affected. Thinking of this, Ruoli's heart suddenly hesitated, not knowing whether to let Charlie help. After all, Charlie is a master whose strength is far surpassing hers. If he handles her injuries, it must be much more reliable than handling her own injuries. Seeing her struggling expression, Charlie said categorically, "Okay, don't rush, life is more important than anything else, and I believe you don't want your legs to be disabled. Otherwise, a little beauty would walk on a slope, that's too ugly." After that, he has stretched out his hand to Ruoli, and said without a doubt, "Come on, I will help you to the recliner." Seeing Charlie's uncompromising posture, Ruoli suddenly felt a little embarrassed deep in her heart, and said in a low voice, "I can do it myself." After that, she wanted to support herself with both hands, but after a few tries, she found that her arms simply couldn't help her. Seeing that she had nothing to do, Charlie said calmly, "Don't bother, your meridians have been temporarily sealed by me, and your body can't use strength." Ruoli was a little shocked, so she handed her hand to Charlie obediently, and whispered, "Then I will trouble you." Charlie stretched out his hand to hold her soft and cold little hand, and then directly supported her up. It was the first time that Ruoli was held in this way by a man, and her heart beat like a drum. She grew up with her mother. She has always practiced martial arts hard, not to mention falling in love, and she has no chance to get along with boys. Suddenly he was holding her hand so intimately, and he panicked unconsciously. Charlie helped her onto the recliner and let her lie on it gently, then locked the swing function of the recliner, and said to her, "I will cut off your trouser legs first." As soon as Ruoli heard this, her face flushed with shame, and she asked him desperately, "Does he really want to cut the pants? In that case, wouldn't the entire thigh be exposed to him?" Just when Ruoli was still unable to accept Charlie's decision for a while, he had already picked up a pair of scissors, followed the position where the crossbow arrow was shot, upwards a few centimeters, and cut Ruoli's entire trouser. Ruoli only felt a sudden cold in her right leg, and when she looked down, her slender leg was completely exposed to the air, and she immediately covered her face shyly. Charlie didn't expect that Ruoli's legs would be so beautiful, even far surpassing all the women he knew. This may have a lot to do with her martial arts training since childhood. Her legs are not only slender, but also very straight, and even with faint muscle lines. Compared with those supermodels, it is not less than that, and even better. It is definitely the best leg in a million. Seeing Charlie staring at her leg motionless, Ruoli felt embarrassed in her heart. She felt that although this man was very strong, he seemed to have nothing different from those squint men. The difference was not that much. So she asked a little bit angrily, "What are you looking at?" Charlie raised his head, smiled indifferently, and said calmly, "I'm looking at your legs are very beautiful." Ruoli didn't expect Charlie to admit the matter of looking at her legs so generously. He was so open and natural, and Ruoli's angry mood suddenly seemed a bit at a loss. She, who had some accusations against Charlie, suddenly didn't know what to do. Moreover, the bit of anger in her heart disappeared with his generous confession. So, she could only give him a shy look, then turned her face away, and whispered with a bit of shame, "If you see enough, please help me treat." Quote. Charlie nodded and smiled. "Okay, let's start treatment now." Ruoli asked subconsciously, "If you have watched enough." After finishing speaking, she realized that it didn't seem to be right, so she asked for help in embarrassment. No. I didn't mean that. I mean, if you really saw enough, let's start." When she said this, she was somewhat disappointed. Charlie smiled slightly and said without shame, "The doctor is kind, although your legs are really good looking, I still have to help you deal with the wound quickly." After speaking, he held Ruoli's thigh with one hand, and took a pair of pliers in the other hand, and said, "The crossbow arrow has barbs. I can only cut it from the tail and pull it away from both sides. It will hurt a bit, you have to bear with it." Ruoli nodded gently, "Come on, I can bear it." Charlie snorted, carefully cut the crossbow arrow with pliers, then grabbed the arrow, and said, "In this way, I count 123, and then take it out. You get mentally prepared." Ruoli hurriedly said, "Okay." Charlie nodded and said seriously, "Come on, let's start, 1 or 2. Just after the word was finished, Ruoli felt a sharp pain in her leg, and the pain caused her to shout immediately, "Oh, it hurts. Didn't you say that you count to 3? How to count to 2? Charlie smiled slightly, "I am a person who likes to surprise. If I really counted 3 times, what if you can't control it and suddenly retract your leg?" Ruoli had tears in her painful eyes, and said grotesquely, "Then you can't be so unexpected. I'm almost so painful, I wasn't prepared at all." Charlie smiled and said, "How can you say that you are a tried and tested killer? Why can't you stand this pain?" Ruoli said aggrieved, "It was really painful just now. I was injured by this cold weapon. The pain is much worse than being shot by a bullet." Charlie smiled faintly, "The pain is the same thing. It's all right now. I will debride and sterilize your wound, put some anti-infection medicine, and then bandage the wound. It's basically done." Ruoli could only nod her head and asked, "Would you not use alcohol to sterilize me? That will hurt even more." Charlie waved his hand, "Alcohol is not suitable for wound sterilization. I will use some iodophor for you. Don't worry, it doesn't hurt as much as alcohol." Ruoli breathed a sigh of relief, and then saw that Charlie brought a bottle full of iodophor, then used metal tweezers to add a clean cotton ball, and then dipped the cotton ball with iodophor and applied it evenly above her wounds. Iodophor is a drug that is very suitable for debridement and sterilization of wounds, and the pain is indeed much less than that of alcohol. Seeing Charlie holding the tweezers and carefully helping her with the wound, Ruoli's heart felt a little more fond of this strange man who had made her extremely angry. She looked at Charlie and asked in a curious voice, "Hey. I don't know what your name is yet." Charlie smiled slightly, "Does my name matter to you?" Ruoli pretended to be annoyed and said, "The last time you cheated me, I haven't settled the account with you yet. So you are of course very important to me." Charlie nodded, and said, "Hey. I cheated you because you did a little too much to kill the Matsumoto family at that time. You are also Chinese, so naturally you know what the Chinese ancestors did. Don't you still understand the reason that style is not harmful to your family?" Ruoli looked a little ashamed and said, "Although I did the things, I also acted on orders. The owner of the family clearly asked the Matsumoto family to pay the most painful price, so I followed his instructions and led people to execute it." Charlie asked her, "The patriarch you are talking about, is it Zin or Chengfeng?" Ruoli whispered, "It's Zin." Charlie sneered, with a bit of disdain, and a bit of self-deprecating, "Zin, this old bastard, luck is so good, I accidentally saved his son and daughter because of a coincidence. It was Jufei and Jiu, the 2 heirs of the Su family. Unexpectedly, I saved his illegitimate daughter today, and I am cooking drunk." Ruoli exclaimed, "What did you say? You saved Jufei and Jiu?" Charlie nodded and said uncomfortably, "Yes, I did save the 2. I didn't know that they were the children of Zin. If I knew, I would definitely not save them." Ruoli couldn't help asking, "Do you have any deep hatred for him?" Charlie looked at Ruoli and said seriously, "I have an antagonism with him." After that, Charlie said again, "I said, one day, I will let him kneel in front of me, crying and apologizing to me, begging me for forgiveness, and then, I might cut off his head with a single knife. He may also smile and succumb, whether it is death or life, it depends on his own good fortune." Charlie still doesn't know how much the death of his parents has to do with Zin. Judging from the information he has so far, Zin was indeed an enemy of his father at all times, and even personally formed the famous anti-Wade alliance at the time. However, it is still unknown whether the death of the parents is related to the anti-Wade alliance and how much it has. In his speculation, 3 parties are responsible for the death of his parents. One is the Wade family, one is the Su family, and the other is the Rothschild family in Europe. It's just that he hasn't figured out who is most responsible for these 3 parties. Ruoli was shocked when she heard this, and asked tentatively, "Could you tell me what hatred you have with him?" Charlie said lightly, "You don't need to ask such details about this." Ruoli nodded in disappointment, and then asked, Then can you tell me your name?" Charlie said lightly, "My last name is Wade, and my name is Charlie." Ruoli muttered to herself, the last name is Wade. Charlie Wade. Could it be? Could it be? When Ruoli said this, she looked straight at him and exclaimed, "Are you from the Wade family?" Please subscribe and like to follow the next chapter. Thank you.